Okay, as we are gathering, I'll just go through the learning sponsors real quickly. A year of learning by friends of Herb Jeremiah, Svi Ben Zev, friends of Sam Coleman, Shmuel Ben Yaakov, friends of Gideon Lazinski, Mordechai Shlomo Ben Meir, Bella and David Adler, in memory of her father, Eliyahu Ben Yosef Kohen. Those who were inspired by our Rebbetzin Emerita, Sheila Shapiro, Sarah Esther Malka, Bat Meshulam Issachar. Gail and Leslie Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Mushka Shmid Bad Yosef Chaim Bechava, Hanan Ben Moshe Eliezer Vechana, Pesha Bat Shmuel Yitzchak Halevi V'Tzipora, Isser Ben Yoel Moshe HaKohen Vechana, Rexford Friends of Gladys Sherman, Gutta Bad Meir, Michael Klein and Friends of Judah Klein, Yehuda Tzvi Ben Chaim, Marsha Braun, in memory of her husband, Harav Yerachiel Ben Shmuel, friends and family of Arthur Ritholtz, Mordechai Yudel Ben Baruch Leib HaKohen, friends and family of Sugi Best, Week of Learning by Carolyn Josh Sanborn, and father, Yehoshua Shia Ben Moshe Yehuda HaKohen, Ike and Evelyn Blachor HaKarat HaTov, who's continuing recovery from recent surgery, Rabbi Dr. Yankee and Malki Honig, in memory of his mother, Rabbanit Hensha Ita Bat Chaim Yehuda, Hannah and David Grunblatt, in memory of her mother, Aroisa Bas Chaim, Jill and Perry Meltzer, in memory of her father, Yaakov Ben Yosef, Be Pizer, in memory of her stepfather, Avram Michel Ben Shmuel Halevi, Be Pizer, in memory of her mother, Razel Bat Shammai, Jerry and Sharon Glassman, in memory of his mother, Malka Yehudis Bat Eliyahu, Henry Katz and children, in memory of his wife, Ilalea Mincha Bat Yehuda, Mel and Haran Haller, in memory of his mother, Fega Bat Yaakov, Andrea and David Dolmy, in memory of mother on her 20th yahrzeit, Elsina Bat Shimshon. A Week of Learning by Andrew and Stephanie Becker, in memory of his sister Yocheved Bat Zev, Evelyn and Isaac Blachor, in memory of her mother, Pero Rivka Bat Rab Menachem Mendel Eliezer, Dita Luxemburg, in memory of her mother, Martha Gittler, Charna Bat Yeshaya, Baruch and Dina Rabinowitz, in memory of his father, Zeb Ben Chaim, Rena and Alan Mosak, in memory of her father, Meir Ben Yosef, Harriet Brick and Rabbi Moshe Kranzler, in memory of David Dolmy's sister, Deborah Dolmy, today being the 28th of the month, a day of learning by Zahava Baum, in memory of her uncle, Reb Shlomo ben Reb Avraham. And the Shemas have an Aliyah, Crank Rafia, Velti Yeshua Shematlia, Obnei Yisrael, good bench.
So, as we're wrapping up our examination of laws of stealing, so there's the part of the problem is when a person steals, even though the object belongs to somebody else, as far as the Torah is concerned, the person takes possession of what he stole as regards being responsible for it. And we call it kinyan exela. Today's Gemara examines both, we're both at the beginning, so to speak, and the end, from its inception, from the conclusion. In other words, we have to know if a person does indeed take responsibility for what he stole, and number one, if he becomes responsible. And secondly, if the person does, when does it end? How does he get out of it? When does he stop being responsible? Generally, we have problems like that. Let's say, we'll see by a person, let's say, who was a watchman. Let's say he gave something as a deposit. So at what point does the watchman cease to, he says, look, you've got it. Now you take over. You're responsible again. I'm no longer responsible. So the end of responsibility, obviously, we have to know. But also you have to know sometimes you have an argument at the inception whether it is. We have a famous argument whether karka is nigzelas, whether land can be stolen. We say land can't be stolen. The truth is you can't steal land. You're going to take it someplace. It's not going anywhere. You can throw somebody off it, but you never really take it any place. And in a certain respect, I told you that really that's why Jews throughout history were never really nervous about Eretz Israel, because of what we never had political issues. The Jews, the Goyim had political definitions of things. Eretz Israel's mine. We can take it away from me. No, we can take it from me. It can't happen. You understand? You can have bandits, you can have thieves, you can have bullies, etc., etc. What's mine is mine. I'm not nobody's getting Eretz Israel. Yeah. Saying so, nobody can get Eretz Israel from me. But we have an argument whether karka is nigzelas or not. Can you actually steal it or not? We're going to see in a minute that it's a classical argument in the Torah. So I'm going to take a minute to just remind us there's a machlokas what the machlokas is, but we do have an argument about whether when we have a general statement and a limiting statement and a more general statement about how to learn it. Do we learn it as what's called general, particular general? That's called klal and prat and klal. And therefore, we in that format, we said that we started out by a generalization, then we went specifics. It must be what that the rule only contains one member. That's the detail. If the Torah then goes inclusive again, makes a wider statement, you have to say what must be that you're supposed to abstract the detail, and everything that's like the detail becomes a category. That's called klal uprat uklal. That's called general, particular, general. The second way to learn is called riboy, miut, or riboy. Looking at the same circumstances, you can say what happened was the Torah amplified the situation, everything's included. Then it said, well, not so much. So something is excluded, okay? And then it amplifies again and says, no, include everything. So then we say what? We have to say, it must be that everything's included except for the least likely comparison to the exclusion, to the detail. So that's another way of learning. That's called riboy umiut or riboy. That's called what? An amplification, a limitation, and amplification. Okay, or no, the argument. There's an argument. What's the argument? One opinion is that it's not a general argument. It really is in each and every place. It's not that the rabbis divided into two camps. One camp that always learns general, particular, general. One always learns amplified, limit, amplify. But rather, in each place, the various rabbis will argue whether in this place the most appropriate thing to do is to learn this way or to learn that way. The second way, the other argument about the argument is no, that it's general and that everywhere in the entire Torah Kula there are really two camps. One camp always learns this way, and one camp always learns that way. Okay, so now we're on the Mishnah. Where are we? Kuf Yazayin Amud Beis. Yeah, the Mishnah almost 3/4 of the way down. So we learned again, continuing from the previous Mishnah, where somebody stole a field. You pushed the guy off, Ushtofanar, and now what happened was, in the river flooded the piece of stolen land and obviously damaged it. So the Mishnah says, he says, so the Mishnah is holding clearly that you can't steal land, and therefore the thief is not responsible in land. He says, listen, whatever, this is your land. It was yours before I stole it, yours after I stole it. Here's your land back. I'm not responsible for the damages. We learned in the Brisa. We learned there's actually an argument about this. Agozo saw the Mechabeiro. If a person stole a field from his family, Shtofanar, and the river flooded it and damaged it. Chayav lahamid lo sada acher. So according to this opinion, the thief has to provide another field for his friend. He damaged this field. That's the opinion of Elazar, who holds, as we'll see, that land can be stolen. The rabbis say no. They're like our Mishnah. I say no. Here's your land. This what I stole is a piece of property. It's your problem that it got damaged. But Michael Mitzvah, what's the argument? So now we're going to see Rabbi Levin's Darsh Riboy Umir. Okay, because Rabbi Elazar learns that the pasuk that talks about the responsibility of swearing and etc., of falsely swearing about a theft, etc., and paying back, he learns it's learned as an amplification and a limitation, and what we'll see followed by amplification. The person lied to his friend. He said, look, you got my thing. He lied. Reboy, that's general. Everything's included in the responsibility of repaying. But then it said a deposit. So a deposit has two qualities. A deposit is movable and it's money. It itself has value. So it's limited and must be what? Must be something that's movable. Okay. But then when the pasuk says on me call anything that a person will swear falsely about it, so we went and amplified again. So what do I do with that? Reba. It amplified and limited and then amplified. Reba called. We have to say the second amplification is really including everything. Well, 1 second, but the limitation limited something. You have to say it's limiting the most likely to be limited or the most unlikely to be compared. My Rabbi. So what did it include? Rabbi called me. It included everything, including what? Land. Land also is subject to the laws of theft. In my meat, what did it exclude? Meat stars. The most different thing is what is documents. Why? Because documents Here, it's not money, period. It's nothing. It has no value. The value of the document is what it says and not the document, obviously. Rabbanan Dasha, so therefore, so according to him, land was specifically included by the, well, not specifically, by the way we learned, it was included by the Pasuk in the laws of theft. Rabbanan Dasha, always learned the other way. They learn these very same verses, Klali Prati. Okay, they learn what it's a general and a particular. In other words, Vikichesh Klal, it says he lied. That was general about anything. But Pikodam Prat, then it said what? By deposit, that's specific. Okay, which would be what? Only, let's say only like the detail. So which would be, which is deposit, let's say, which would be, let's say something that is movable, something that's actually money, only coal, but then when it said, or anything that the person is going to swear about and lie, Chazar Klal came back and generalized. So it has to do what? So when you generalize, if you have a general and a particular in general, so the generalization tells you to abstract, A with an A, to abstract the particular and turn it into a principle. Okay. First we said what? So therefore you say what? If you have a general, particular in general, you say what? That the rule is what? Is everything that is like the detail. We generalize the detail. We abstract the detail and turn it into a category. Okay. Ma'apracha, just like the detail, which was the deposit. David mitalta b'gufa mama, and it's something that's movable and itself is money. I've called over mitalta b'gufa mama. That includes everything that's what. So the general rule is everything has to be something that is movable and is in itself money and doesn't lead to money like a paper. Yatsu, so this excludes what kakos, one, so land is excluded because it's not movable. Yatsu avadim, slaves are limited for another reason, really, shukshla kakos, because in general, slaves were compared to land. And Yatsu stars and excludes also documents, even though they are movable, ain't group and mammon. They themselves are not money, they only lead to money, but they're not valuable in themselves. So that's the argument for Geshe. The way they learn the psukim determine whether they held that land was subject to theft or not. I says in 1 second, but I'm going to show you in a minute that that can't be the argument of the rabbis and that between the rabbis and Rabbi Elazar. Why? Because Rabbi Elazar, because we're going to see in a second that they have the same argument about a cow, and a cow certainly is not land and not slaves and not a paper. Well, other time you did Milan Agoza, so parish stuff on Nahar. We learned if a guy stole a cow and the river washed it away. He has to give him another cow. That's what Elazar's opinion. When the rabbis say, I say, no, that's what I stole. That's what you got. It's your cow. You poor guy. It was your bad luck that the cow got washed away. It's yours, not mine. Awesome, Michael. What are they arguing about there? You can't say the argument's about land. It's about a cow. Puppy says no. He says the truth is, even though it does look like it, the argument is the same argument as originally. It's the argument about land. Also, because the case was a guy stole a field from his friend. Well, I saw a par of love, and there was a cow lying down in the field. And then the river flooded it. Now, I just want to explain that we know there are lots of ways to acquire things. Remember, I mentioned yesterday when it came to selling chametz, we tried every possible way to sell. We sell to the guy because we want to make sure that he actually gets it. So the same thing over here. One of the ways to acquire something, let's say a cow. So I pull the cow towards me, I pull the animal. But let's say I don't want to. So there's a rule that things that are not land can be acquired together with land. At the same time, if I buy a piece of land from you, if let's say you want to sell me a piece of land, you want to sell me an automobile also. So I can, even though I don't take possession of the auto, if I buy the land and I take possession of the land, so then that's the land that's good and that's good enough. So that's called the kinyan aga. Kinyan aga means that I can acquire non-real estate together with real estate, even though I didn't make any active acquisition with the non-real estate, and I only made acquisition on the real estate. But in the deal where real estate is being sold with non-real estate, I can acquire them together. That's called the kinyan aga. So what happened over here was that, remember, the cow, he sold the land, the cow was lying on it. Okay, the Rebbe Lezer at the time, so Rebbe Lezer holds what, that you can't steal land. So therefore what? So when he stole the land, he also acquired the cow with this called the kinyan of aga. He acquired the non-real estate. But one of the time, the rabbis just said you can't acquire the land. Obviously, you can't acquire the cow. So the same thing happened. The same rule applied in both. In this case, the cow was really subsumed by the acquisition of land. So if you say the land was stolen, the cow was stolen. If you don't say the land was stolen, the cow also wasn't stolen. We learn another Mishnah. It goes there. Shalom, you have to read correct. Let's say now we're going to talk about what I spoke to you about for quite a while about the ending of responsibility. When is if I was responsible to you for some property or money, well, when am I finally out of it? When is it back? You got it, and you have to worry about it, and I'm no longer responsible for anything that takes place. If a guy stole money from his friend, he's obligated to take care of the property he stole. Or a guy borrowed money. Okay, well, when is the money given back and he's not responsible? Or the guy left him a deposit to watch it. When is his responsibility over? But Yishu, if all these things were put into the hand of the thief or the depositee, etc., in a settled area, lo yasu lo b'midbar, he can't force the person to return to take it in a desolate place. Why? It's dangerous over there. So you can't say, listen, I want to give it back now. Don't give it back to me now. I'm in the middle of Hell's Kitchen over here. I don't want to. I'm going to get killed. I don't want to. You can't give it back. You have to. Yeah, it's the issue now. You have to give it back. You have to give it back to me. You have to give it back in a non-dangerous place. But at Times Square, wherever it is, wherever is dangerous these days. But the point is, listen, he says you can't. You have to give back to me in a safe place. You can't get back to me in a dangerous place. Now, we're going to read the Mishnah as it's written, but it doesn't make so much sense. If the guy said on condition, that I'm going to go out to the desolate place and give it to you, you absolutely give it back. Now, obviously, that's so obvious that the Mishnah shouldn't be talking about it. We're going to obviously say it's a little different case. So, let me ask you, Kasha. You told me that I can't return anything in the wilderness when I received it in the settled area. We learn milva mishtalemes b'chol makom. Alone, you can pay it back anywhere. I can take the guy to take money anywhere. Aveda be called when it comes to a lost object or a deposit, that's all where the person is. Now you can understand why, first of all, because those things the guy can't say no. If the guy's money, he says, "Listen, I don't know when I'm going to have money. I got it now. You better take it." So there's a reason why a guy wants to rush the other guy to take the money. So listen, I'm going to have it again. But if the guy's watching a deposit, it's not like coming and going. I'm watching your thing. I'm not spending it. So obviously, if I have it, I have it. So it makes sense, but it's still a problem. It contradicts the Mishnah. They say what? And when it comes to money, the guy can force the other guy to take it. What in the wilderness, in a dangerous place? How can it be? Okay, so Amar Abaye said, don't worry. There's no comparison. The Mishnah and the Brisa are different. And why is that? He says, Achi Kamar. Our Mishnah was really talking about us trying to force the other guy to take it back. But Achi Kamar, but over here, it's talking the other way. It's talking about where the depositor, where the person who's receiving the money is able to demand his money back. Achi Kamar. Alone, you can ask the guy, listen, wherever you are, you can say, look, give me money. You have a right to ask it. When it comes to a deposit or a lost object, there you have no right to demand the guy pay it back to you. Wherever you are, he has a right to say, listen, it's in the domain where I had it. Now we come to what seems to be an obvious conclusion of our Mishnah. If he says, I'm taking a condition that I'm going to the desert, he can pay it back in the desert, pay it back in the desolate area. Pshita, that's obvious. That's what he said. Whatever they said, they said. That's the rule in money. You should know the majority of monetary cases that come to my hand, the first thing I have people do is just talk to the other person. And you'd be shocked how many times I have to do the same thing over again. Listen, I don't know, this happens to you. I said, why don't you talk to the guy first? Ask him. Ask the other guy. Was he expecting to give? Did he expect it? He said, why don't you talk to the person first? It happens to me all the time. He said, do I have to pay him? I said, did you talk to the guy yet? Maybe he has no claim on you. What if maybe he never expected anything? Or in America, they say, am I allowed to take it? I said, call him up. I call up companies in America all the time, by the way. I call American companies all the time. You'd be shocked how many companies I've called. I call them, I say, listen, when you have such and such a deal, what is your expectation? Is the guy allowed to do it or not? Here in America, everybody here scams everybody. So they got every trick. They have ways of beating out the credit card companies and everything. So I call up the companies. I call the company. I say, listen, when you give the card, et cetera, is this okay? Sometimes they'll tell me, yeah, that's okay. We don't care. It's fine. So I tell them, that's fine. He said, it's not a big shot. I'll go to the Shulchan Aruch. I call the credit card company. They tell me it's fine. He said, they're not expecting it. On the other times, I have ones where the people want to cheat the, they have the grocery stores. They give once a month. They give if you're a senior citizen, you get
You get a discount. So the bubby goes to the thing and she buys for her, all of her children, her great grandchildren, and her great great grandchildren. She shops for 75 people on the third Tuesday of the month. And he said, So yeah. So the truth is, you have to ask. It's not so bad. It's not a bunch of things. One of the things to do is go find out. Go find out what they find out first. Let's see. They have a claim. They don't have a claim. Let's see what they're talking about. They said, no, we've never. You'll be surprised. A lot of the credit card companies, you'll find that you're writing to the thing. This is not allowed. They tell you. You may not take advantage of us this way. It doesn't work. You'll see. So you have to, from one thing, when you say one thing, you got to find out what's going on. So over here, if the guy made a deal, my whole point after the long speech over here, I made a deal. But anyway, obviously, if he said I'm only taking, I'm taking with the understanding that I can pay back in the wilderness. Obviously, he can pay. That was the deal. He didn't accept anything else. The answer is, so the Gemara says, you're right. He says, Peter, it's obvious. Here's the case. He says, here's what he said. He said, listen, the guy says, the depositor says, listen, take this thing, watch it, keep it by you, because I have to go to the wilderness. And then he said to him, the depositee said, says, well, I'm also going out to the wilderness. Now, he doesn't say the following, but the implication being, if I want, if I want to give it to you there, I'm give it to you. The Chiddush is what? Even though he didn't say that explicitly, if this guy said, hey, watch this while I go to the wilderness, he said, hey, I'm also going to the wilderness, it's understood as if he was saying what? That I'm agreeing to watch it on condition that I can also meet you there and give it back to you in the wilderness. You take over responsibility, even though what? You're in a dangerous place. A new Mishnah. Now, this is very important. Okay, let's see. A guy says to his friend, he said, listen, you know what? I stole money from you. Okay, or he says, you lent me money. If Katatzli, he says, you deposited with me. I don't know if I gave you payback. You definitely gave me money. I don't know if I paid you back. Mishnah says, he has to pay back. We'll see why. Okay, that's when there was where he's sure that he got the money, but not sure if he paid it back. He has to pay it back. If he said to him, he says, I don't know if I stole from you. Maybe. I don't know if you let me money. I don't know. Maybe you give me a deposit, maybe not. So here he's not sure if he ever got the money. He's exempt. Well, now we learn the following, and we have a famous argument of what beats what. It makes sense in your mind. If one guy is certain about an obligation, one guy is in doubt. So in one respect, the guy who's certain should have primacy. He knows what he's talking about. The other guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know. So the guy who knows, that's called Bari and Shema. That's called for sure. A person has a certain claim and a maybe claim. But there's another rule, which is very important throughout the entire Torah, and the next Masechta is going to be all about it. There's another principle called Chazaka, which is what? Which is possession. Possession is a gigantic principle in the Torah. In general, that the possession is the status quo. Exactly. You have to do a lot of work to change anybody's to extract something from somebody. So even if one guy's certain about his claim and a guy's in doubt about his claim, but if the guy who's in doubt is in possession, so what? Still, with that, it's good that you're sure he owes you the money, but he's in possession. If without a clear proof, to your point, who says he can change it? So we're going to see this famous argument. Here's my we learn. A guy says, listen, you have $100 for me, a deposit, a loan money there. They say, I don't know if I ever got it. Rabbi Yehuda say what he has to pay. And these two rabbis say what he's exempt from paying. Why do they say he's obligated? Because that's the rule. Because if one guy is certain about his claim, one guy's not sure. So it's common sense. Obviously, this guy knows what he's saying. You have to go with him, and he owes him the money. They say no, he's exempt. Why? Because you always leave, as I told you. Money, you leave money in its status quo in the place where it's possessed. Even though the guy's not sure, since he's in possession of the money, you can't take it out of his possession without a proof, even with a positive claim. So now our Mishnah is hard to understand. Remember, our Mishnah looks very similar. The guy said, he says, I borrowed from you, but I don't know if I paid you. Case one, and case two, what? I don't know if I borrowed from you. No, it's in general. Case one. So the opening of the Mishnah. I got money from you, but I don't know if I gave it back. Case two, I don't know if I ever got any money from you. Okay, so we said in the first case, I got money, but I don't know if I paid it back. I have to pay it. He said what? And the second case was, I don't know if I ever got any money. He doesn't. So where, when, who, how? How does this line up with what? With our argument about a positive claim and a maybe claim? Yeah.
say, I don't know if I took any money from him.
Because he's a righteous man. No Jew. I know this sounds funny, but no Jew in his right mind wants anybody else's money. But I assure you, you don't want other people's money. So that's why. So therefore he says. Listen, I don't know. He's trying to say, listen, I want to get out of this problem. I'm in trouble. Let's straighten this out. I don't want to go to heaven after 120 years and have to deal with this claim. Yeah, I don't. Okay, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Your situation where he says, I know I borrowed money, but I don't remember if it was from the connection that I made.
That's also true. Yeah, it's also maybe it's you. Maybe it was you. Exactly. That's all the case.
So
That's it. Yeah. That's all these cases. Maybe, but everything. It could be anything. It could be here. It never happened to you. You made a plan, and you can't remember if it actually went through. I have a case to this day, by the way, that I'm trying to work out. It's quite a serious case. I have quite a serious case where I owed somebody money, and I withdrew the money. I withdrew the money, and I remember I withdrew the money. I had the money in my hand. And we're in an argument whether the money ever got to his hand. It's a big problem. So on the one hand, I'm very clear because I extracted it, and my bookkeeper says that the money left the account. So on the one hand, so that's exactly the problem. And the other guys, it's a serious issue for him because the other guy's claiming this. That's right. I believe that you got it. I believe that you took it out of the bank. I believe that it was debited, but you never gave it to me. It's a big problem. So there's many ways to be in doubt. There's ways to be in doubt. I mean, I definitely go for somebody. Maybe it was you. Maybe it was somebody else. Another one is so we have to talk about it. So the other ways there are. It could be. I just don't remember if my plans were ever carried out. I can't remember what happened. I'm a busy guy. I do or imagine, and any normal businessman who does maybe 100 transactions a week. There's any reason why I can't. What the heck happened? Did I ever give it? I ever take it? He's busy doing. He's doing 10 deals a day. Okay, so now we have to see how does this argument match up with our Mishnah? So Aval Imamala in Yodea Imavi Sani. We said the second way in the second case in the Mishnah. I don't know if I ever borrowed the money. Pater is exempt. What was the case? If the guy's not asking you for any money, and the guy's just saying, listen, hi, I don't know if I ever borrowed money from you. Okay. That's the case. And therefore what? And he says he doesn't have to pay. So it's where there's no claim ratio where it says that he said, what, I borrowed, but I don't have to pay. He has to pay. He says, no, the guy's not asking for money. Why does he have to pay him? The guy's not asking for any money. So you tell me, because he said, I don't know if I gave it back. He says, I didn't ask you for anything. Ella, you're forced to say what? The kotabale must be the reason in the ratio where he has to give it because the guy wants the money. He says, I don't know if I gave it back. And the first guy said, what? I want you. You didn't give it back. Give me the money. Well, Kotani Seifa. But so then if it's talking where there is a claim, then in the second half of the Mishnah, when you said what? I don't know if I ever borrowed it. Pater l'shalim, he doesn't have to pay. Okay, it's a case of what? It's a case where the guy's claiming that's a kasha to Rav Huna or Yehuda. The guy's claiming what? I definitely lent you, and he's claiming I don't know. And we're saying he's exempt. What do you mean? We said the rule is what? According to those rabbis, if he made a positive claim, the positive claim beats a maybe. The Gemara says, "No, don't worry, you're right." He says that's not. We can't say the Mishnah is against them, but rather what? He says, "La'olam." Okay, the lo kotavale. The case in both cases, both in the Reisha and the Sefer, is where what? Where he's not making a claim. So if the Reisha, when he said, "I don't know if I paid you back," and the guy's not claiming anything, why does he have to pay him? The answer is, "Let's say Shamayim." Because the Bible wants to make with the heavens, the guy beyond earthly law. But according to the heavenly law, that as long as he's in doubt, he really has to make amends and pay him back. Itmar nami. And we also learned, we learned, if a guy said to his friend, he says, yomi 100, he says, listen, I don't know if I owe you, if I owe you. Okay, that really what, and he's really what, he's not obligated to pay. But if he wants to fulfill his obligation, according to the heavens, he has to pay him back. Says the Mishnah. Now, we have one more thing. This is the opening discussion I mentioned to you. In terms of ending my responsibility, I have to make it is a big problem because let's say I have somebody's money or I stole something and I give it back to them without them knowing. Well, how do they know to take care of the object? You understand? So if I'm responsible, if I stole money I'm responsible. Everything happens to it till I give it back to the guy. It's my that's what we've been learning. Once I give it back to him, I say now it's his responsibility. I did tshuva, I did whatever I did. Now it's your responsibility, whether it was a loan, whatever it was, but certainly by a stolen object. Yeah, but now anything happens, it's your responsibility. I gave it back to you. But now what happens if so can I return a stolen object without telling the guy? People want to do this all the time. People are embarrassed. They have to, people steal all kinds of people. And even if the guy knows that they stole, people don't want to have a company. People don't want to face. They don't want to face the guy. It happens a lot. Yes, and it happens every day. We have cases where people try to pay people back anonymously and all kinds of things, or they want to pay them back without ever arousing their consciousness. Yeah, or another way, or they want to pay them without ever letting them know that they ever stole from them. Yes, and it happens a lot. They never want to let the person know. Now we have a problem though, because the object becomes damaged or whatever it is after the return. Well, 1 second, if you could say the thief remains responsible because the owner had no way of knowing. Instead that he take no responsibility. So the thief, even though when he thinks he's a big tzaddik, he gave it back. Not a big tzaddik because he's still responsible for the object, and the guy's going to lose it. So yeah. Stay tuned. That's for the exciting continuation of our Mishnah and Gemara. It's going to tell us. Here it is. Here's the exciting answer coming up. Hey, coming up right this
Bob,
hang in there.
But he has
When I was a kid, I was always excited about everything. So, and my father, blessed memory, but school for my father was like a mitzvah. Everybody goes to school, even if if you could walk, if you could get out of bed, you went to school. There's nothing that you can't get out of bed. If you could walk, you could go to school, and everybody went to school every day even when it's snowing. So I was in kindergarten. Usually they're very makel. They're very makel by kindergarten. Usually they're makel. You know what I'm saying? But not my father, a blessed memory. So it's snowing out. And my father takes me to school. I go to kindergarten. There's nobody in kindergarten. Who comes to kindergarten when it's snowing? So they know what to do with me in the school. So they put me in the first grade. I'm in the first grade. The teacher is learning with the children in the Chumash how the Bnei Israel, are running away from the Egyptians, and they come to the sea, and they're stuck. There they are at the sea. The water is in front of them. The Egyptians at the back of them, and they're stuck. I got so excited about that. I jumped up, and I didn't want the kids to be worried. I said, Don't worry. Hashem will save them. I announced the whole class. That was it. They thought it was too adorable for words. They called up my parents, to tell them. Anyway, Anyway, here you're excited. I'm excited. Stay tuned. It's coming up right now. Hashem's going to save us. We're going to hear the exciting answer. But it's a big fight. It's a big fight. The Mishnah says, a guy stole a lamb from the flock. There's zero, a zero, and he gave it back without telling the owner. He just put it back. He stole it and he put it back without telling the owner. But after that, it died or was stolen. The thief remains responsible. Oh, for what? For the responsibility. Why? Because he didn't give it back without telling him. He didn't really give it back. He never ended his responsibility for the stolen. He did take it without. Get out. No, this case where they knew he stole it and they knew in this case they stole it and they knew that they stole it, but he gave it back. They knew it was missing, but they didn't know that it came back. Okay, lo yadu abalim. But in the second instance, let's say he stole the lamb and they didn't know that it was stolen. Lo b'gnei basar v'lo b'chazos. If they didn't know it was stolen and they didn't know it was given back, umanos atzon. And what? And they counted the sheep though, ushleimahi, and the number was complete. So they knew in a certain respect, by in other words, by inference, they knew that the sheep was back. Potter, okay, then he's exempt because but the counting was equivalent to what? Of letting the person know that it was given back. Now, the problem is that we have lots and lots of problems. Remember, even counting in a certain respect is not conclusive because remember, especially by animals, sheep's come, sheep's goes. It could be the one. It could be that the number is full, but another sheep joined the flock. It's not the one that was stolen. So there's reasons why counting is not necessarily conclusive. Yeah, okay, exactly. It's not necessarily conclusive. Now we're going to have 4 opinions, Rabbi says. So keep your hat on. We're going to have 4 different opinions. Okay, when counting works or doesn't work, or when you need absolute notification, or maybe notification. Yeah. Okay, Amra, maybe don't need anything. Amar Rav says, Ladas, Rav says this is the upshot of the Mishnah. If the owners know that it was stolen, Tzarech Das, then you have to give it back by telling the person, okay? By telling him. He has to actually know explicitly. Shelo Das, if the owner didn't know that it was stolen, minyan poter, then it's good enough for what to, just that he counted it. Okay, that he counted it. So when the Mishnah said in the end, if he counted it and the number was complete, then it's fine that the thief is exempt. That's safer. It's only talking about the second case, what? Where the owner didn't know it was stolen. But if the owner knew it was stolen, your counting is not enough. You have to have told him. Ushmul Amar said no. Whether the owner knew it was stolen or not, minyan poter. Counting is enough. That's enough to alert the owner to his responsibility, and he's watching and he's responsible. And even though it said at the end of the Mishnah, when it said he counted it and the count is complete, Akul, it's talking about both cases, both the beginning when the owner knew, or in the end when the owner didn't know. Either way, counting is enough to be considered a complete return. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, he says no. He says now opinion number 3. He says ladas minyan poter. If the owner knows that it was stolen, counting is good enough. Shelo ladas, and if the owner didn't know, I feel minyan amal tzarech, you don't need anything. If the owner didn't know it was stolen, you return it. You don't need anything. It's all fine. Now he says when the Mishnah said they counted it and the count was good, that the thief is exempt, that's only talking about one. The beginning when the owners knew, and then, you don't even need counting. If the owner didn't know, he just give it back. Rav Chisda says, the most ironic one of all. He says, Ladas minyan poter. If the owner knows that it was stolen, this is the 4th opinion. Okay, then and the owner counts it and it's complete poter, then the thief is exempt. Shelo ladas, but if the owner doesn't know, tzarech midas. If he doesn't know it was stolen, then you must tell him explicitly that you gave it back. When it said that if he counted it and the number is good, the thief is exemplary. It's only talking where the owner knew. But if the owner didn't know, nothing works except for telling. Rav explains to me, why is Rav Chisda so stringent if the guy didn't know? My time to Rav Chisda, and it's a very interesting reason. The answer is, hold the inkata nagri baraisa. If you translate these words literally, it means, since he took it on outside steps. It sounds like a guy who can't speak English. He took it on outside steps. Okay, what does that mean? Just teasing. What does that mean? It means that the thief, when the thief steals an animal, the sheep are accustomed to following the herd. That's what the herd animals. But when the thief once the thief takes it out, he breaks the nature of the sheep. And the sheep is used to what? Being independent. So when a sheep is stolen, it skews the normal nature. So an owner has to be particularly alerted. You have a certain amount of watching. Sheep usually follow sheep. No, you got a renegade sheep here. You got a maverick sheep over here. It's a problem. You see? So therefore, so you have to be particularly careful. So therefore, what Rav Chisda says, on the contrary, when he knows it was stolen, whenever he knows it was stolen, it's enough. The count is fine. When he doesn't know it was stolen, it's worse. It's worse. Why is that? Because he's not aware that he has a bunch of sheep. Yeah, and therefore what? So you have to specifically tell him. Gemara says, one second. He says, now we assume that the Gemara assumes that since Rava explained Rav Chisda, it must be that he really agrees with Rav Chisda. Sometimes we do. We assume that the explainer was in agreement. So you're going to tell me what? You want to tell me what? That according to Rava, he agrees with Rav Chisda that when the owner knows that it was stolen, it's enough just to count it. For him to count it, he doesn't have to let him know. Didn't Rava tell me otherwise? A guy saw his friend, the Agba Imri Miyadr the day. A guy saw his buddy stealing a sheep from him. And he yelled at the guy, and the guy threw it back down. But he didn't see if he actually put it back into the herd or not. He knows the guy stole it. He knows the guy dropped it. He doesn't know if he actually put it back in the herd. And then that sheep died or was stolen. The thief is obligated for the responsibility. Why? Because the owner is not really properly aware. Rav, one second. Let's go the other way. You want to tell me that Rav holds that you always need one or the other. You always have to have either counting or knowledge, at least one.
Rav, I'll show you a case where you don't. Okay, didn't Rav learn if the guy stole a sheep from the flock of a certain person, and he put it back into the flock should be midbar, but he put it back in he took it from the flock, but he put it back in the desolate area. Yotza, he's fulfilled his obligation, the thief, and he's no longer responsible, and he's no longer responsible, and he's exempt from damage, etc. Even though the owner doesn't we didn't demand anything. The owner didn't have to know he gave it, nor did he have to count it. So you see, you don't need anything. Rav Chana Barabi says no. He says, I'll tell you, that's a very special case. There was a time when even Rav would agree, you don't need anything. You don't need knowledge. You don't even need counting. Why? When it's a splotchy sheep, with big splotches, that's so recognizable that therefore what? So the second it was stolen, he knew that it was stolen. He knew that it was stolen, and the second it was back, he knew it was back. That was the big blotchy sheep. So therefore, you don't need anything. Why? Because it's self-evident. That sheep is so outstanding that everybody knows when it's stolen. Everybody knows. Yeah. Everybody knows when it's brought back. Right. I know. Okay. Now we're gonna this for. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter whether we know. It's there. Watch it.
No, so we have different points though. We have the person may not he maybe in the quality of the watching, or I told you, or maybe remember we said according to Chizdi, he has to watch it better. He has to watch it better than other sheep. Certainly, if a sheep's been stolen, it has to be watched better according to Chizdi. Remember, he said you have to do more. But there'll be other things also. But even in the if I know I got so many, I do one thing. I know I got so many, I do another thing. There's different qualitative consciousness.
In the midbar,
animals are funny.
The sheep tend to stay together because they're intimidated by the vast.
Yeah. All right.
Shepherd in another life.
Yeah. I'm Rav Zavish made the Rava.
David Hamelech is a shepherd.
A lot of guys are shepherds. I'm Rav Zavish made the Rava. Okay, he says, listen. So now what? Now we want to look our classic problem. We want to make sure that Amoraim are not arguing with the Tanoim where they shouldn't be. So we want to say this four-way machlokas might really have been in one of two ways. Might really have been the machlokas of Tanoim. Name a Tanoim. Let's say what these guys are out. They're arguing argument against Tanoim. Didn't we learn the following in a brisa? Hagonif lemonade. A guy stole a lamb from the herd. The selim and a kiss. He stole a coin from the purse. The Mokum should go to be answered. He has to give it back to the same place that he stole it from. In other words, but he doesn't have to let anybody know. Tiv Rabbi Yishmael. That's the words of Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Kiva disagrees, and he says, "Sorry, that's Balim. No, you have to let the guy know. And if you don't let the guy know that you gave it back, you're responsible for the thief is responsible for the damages." Savua. So in the yeshiva, they figure that makes sense. The Kuli Almeis of Rabbi Yitzchak must be everybody holds the classic principle of Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak on the Maseh the Mashmei Kisa B'Kol Shah. Everybody knows the principle that people are always checking on their money, and therefore a guy always knows when his money's been stolen. And normal people are always checking that the money that they're carrying around is still there. Okay, and therefore what? So since the case is what? The guy definitely knew that it has to be, since it's talking about money from a purse, the guy definitely knew that it was stolen, because the norm is people are constantly checking their money, and when he brought it back, by the time he checked his money before it's stolen, he also checked his money after it's stolen. Therefore what? So he knew that the money was gone, and then he knew when the money was back. Okay, so then why? So why is the argument? My love. So what's the argument? The seller, they're arguing about these things. When it came to the coin, that whether you have to give it back to the person or not, ladas. Okay, it's a case where the owner knew, that it was stolen, and the question is whether counting is enough. Well, looked at the Rabbi Shmuel. That was the argument of Rabbi Shmuel. That Rabbi Shmuel holds like Shmuel that counting is enough, and Rabbi Kiva holds like Rav that counting is not good enough. Now, skip the low, and furthermore, the second argument would be what? But when it came to the lamb, Shalol Ladas, it was a case where the owners didn't know that it was stolen. But looked at Rav Chisda and Rabbi Yochanan. Now the argument of Rav Chisda and Rabbi Yochanan, that Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Yochanan. In this case, what? Even counting doesn't work, even though counted it won't work. And Rabbi Kiva holds like Rav Chisda, and in such a case, no. In this case, that the owners have to know. Rav Zavid mishmei the Rava. So Rav Zavid said to the Rava, he says, "Nah." He says, "You're making a mistake. They have to correct the text over here. I'm going to read different words than the words you have in front of you. This is the text of Rashi. He says, you're making a mistake. He says, "Begonim rishus habalim." When the thing was actually stolen from the possession, from the domain of the owner, I know it's a regular old case when a thief stole from an owner and he didn't know. Nobody argues. Everyone agrees because Rav Chisda. We can say everyone is in agreement with Rav Chisda that whenever a guy stole something from an owner without knowing it, the only way to give it back is to let him know. Everyone agrees, like Rav Chisda will say. Okay, and when the Bryce, what was it talking about? It wasn't talking about a simple case of stealing from the owner. Bishomer, okay, should go. It's a guardian himself. A guy was responsible for watching this guy's sheep, and he wants to claim it was stolen or lost to exempt himself. He's the thief. Okay, and now when he's going to give it back, he really stole it, and when he's going to put it back, but he stole it in the same flock that he's watching. Now, 1 second. It's true before he stole it. He was the owner. He was like the owner. He's watching. He knows his domain is the owner's domain. But he's a thief, this guy. So you're going to tell me what? Now, after he's a thief, giving it back to himself is giving back to the owner? What owner? What's this guy working with? You're not me anymore. You're a thief. So do we assume, so different what? So he says, but Akiva says what? The second this guy was a thief, he can't say, I'm continuing not to act on behalf of the owner. When I put it back in the flock, I'm like him. You're not like him. You're a thief. Get out of here. You're not working for me. Okay, 1 second. So Akiva says, what he's for sure not, it's not a giving back. It has nothing to do with the normal case. In that case, of course, it's not giving back. He has to know. Rabbi Shmuel said, no, even so, he's still on the job. What are you going to do? You're right, the guy wouldn't have liked it, but the case is he's still on the job. He's on the job, the guy gave it back. So it has nothing to do with a normal case of what? A normal case of the guy doesn't know, we'll say also you have to let the guy know. Good. So far, so good. All right, let's try another way. But what about this? He says, Minyan Poter. Maybe we're really arguing Tanai. Maybe that's the other argument, whether counting is good enough or not. Tanai. Maybe that's arguing whether that's enough to make the owner assume responsibility. The time because we learned. Agozos Chaveiro. A guy stole $100 from another guy. And then what he does is the same guy who stole them. He's a Gazlan. Don't forget. What's a Gazlan? We know who this guy is. We know this guy. A guy guzzled $100 from this other guy, and but he has he got problems. But he wants to buy something from the same guy. So he figures, you know what? I'll pay him back. I have to get into embarrassment. I'll just give him more money. When I pay back, I'll just cover it. I don't want to talk about it. And then when he paid money, he mixed up the money that he stole into the thing. He didn't want, he's embarrassed. He didn't say, here, I'm paying you back for the theft. He paid him back. He mixed the money in with the money that he bought. He bought the barrel with it. Says Tani Chada. So we learned in one brisa we learned what we learned Yotza, that he did his obligation. He's no longer obligated for the watching of the money that he mixed in. But Tiny either. But another brisa says Lo Yotza. No, he didn't fulfill his obligation, and he's still obligated to be responsible for any loss of that money. So Ruas in the yeshiva they figure like this: the Kuliyam based like Rabbi Yitzchak. Again, everybody holds like Rabbi Yitzchak. The people are always counting their money. Okay. So people always checking their purse, the whole at every single instance. So therefore, what? So by definition, when the guy who stole him from got it back, he was aware that he got it back because he counted. He had more money in his purse. He's supposed to get the guy was supposed to give him 5, and he gave him 15. So he knows he got 10 extra. My love, isn't that the argument? The Minyan Poter. Isn't it that the one who says that the thief is no longer responsible is because he holds the counting works? The one who says that the thief hasn't fulfilled his obligation, he's still responsible. He thinks that the counting of the recipient is not good enough. They said, no, that's it. You see that the Tanaim are arguing the same argument as them, right? They said, no, you can push it off. If we hold like Rabbi Yitzchak, that people are always counting, okay, and therefore what? So the guy knew that it's true. The guy knew he got more money he's supposed to. Nobody's arguing. Everybody agrees. The Minyan Poter. Everybody agrees that counting is good enough. We could say everybody. It's not an argument with everybody. We can at least say that, at least according to the opinion, that he's counting all the time. I agree that counting works. Ella, but the problem is like this. The argument is the Tanaim are arguing the principle of Yitzchak himself. The Tanaim who said what? That the thief fulfilled his obligation by just overpaying. He holds the Rabbi Yitzchak's principle that people are always counting, so you can assume that the recipient counted it and knew that he got it back. Okay, Omar, the one who says what? That the thief did not fulfill his obligation. Less than Yitzchak. He doesn't hold the principle of Yitzchak, and he holds the what? You can't assume that the recipient counted the money and knew that he got the theft back.
Okay, alternatively, I can have another way to push you off. The Kuli Yitzchak. Okay, good. All the time I'm holding like Rabbi Yitzchak, people are always counting their money. Below Kasha, but still there's no contradiction. Hard the money Uromale Bekise. One is the case where the Goslin counted the money out and he put and he put it into the purse of the person it's stolen from. Well, okay, but over here, so he knew the money here's where he counted out to his hand. So the nigzal, the person who was stolen from, didn't put it into his purse. He took it home, he threw it into a drawer, whatever it is. So therefore, even though usually people count their purse, but they don't count everything. So therefore, what? So therefore, they all agree. But the question, we all agree that if people count, if people have a purse, they count it. But over here, the case was the case where we can't rely on him counting because he didn't put it in his purse. You might say another way to push off and say again that's not a machlokas tanoim. I need the money around Mekise. Both cases, both prices are talking about what? Where the thief paid it right into the guy's purse. Okay, I said then what's the problem? Hard is like okay, if we say what that the thief is still responsible, the Isla is who's definitely Mekise because there was other money in the purse and the guy didn't know how much money was in there. So even though he counted his money, he didn't know how much money was originally in the purse. He doesn't know how much money was added, so he doesn't know if he doesn't know. I can't identify the number as the number of the theft that he got returned. And in the case where we said that the thief fulfills his obligation, the Leslie Zuzakhin is the case where the recipient had no other money in his purse. He had no other money in his purse, and therefore what? So since there was no other money in the purse, he knew exactly how much he was overpaid, and therefore what? He was aware that he got the theft back. And look, and now we have one more thing. You have to be careful. Certain people, this is also a big problem in America, by the way. There's a big problem. It's a big problem also in Israel, but a big problem everywhere. You have to watch out. A lot of people who seem to represent the business might be thieves. It happens all the time. I had a case recently with the guy. Yeah, the guy's in Brooklyn, and he has a deal. The guy he asked me the question, gets him this guy. The other guy, he got in Brooklyn. He goes to the big lulav esrog place, and the Arab who's been working there for years for the Jewish guy, he meets him at the side door and gives him a good deal. This looks a little fishy. You understand? You have to look out. Not everybody works in a business is a good guy. Sometimes they steal. So you have to be wary. There's certain cases where we have to really be wary that the guy you're buying from is a thief. And it happens. People skim a little off. They make a side business. So the Mishnah teaches there's certain cases where you really must worry about it. You can't. You have a negative assumption. You have to be suspicious that the person that's selling to you is a thief, and you can't buy from them. So we learn ein lochim and aroim. Okay, shepherds. Okay, there's a lot of hanky panky there. But a shepherd is a person who's not under the eye of the owner. He's working. He's an independent worker. He can steal all the time. So they said tzemer. Okay, so we don't from shepherds. We don't buy tzemer b'chola b'gedoyim. Okay, we don't buy milk. We don't buy wool or milk or lambs. Why? Because we're afraid that they've stolen them. Below me show me Paris, eight to Paris. And people who guard fruit, we don't buy wood or apples or trees. Okay, okay, but from women now, what's the problem? Also, we're also a little worried: are women stealing from their husbands? Okay, so you say what? So we can in Yehuda you can buy woolen garments because Yehuda it's normal for them to have their own business with the garments. And the Gala you can buy what flaxen garments because it's normal there also for them to have their own independent business. Okay, you can buy it. But now this is a big argument. We're going to read one way from Rashi. But Golim Bisharon, and also from the women, you can buy calves. Why? Because it was normal for them to buy them cheaply in the Sharon, and they can also have their independent business. But the whole point is what that we don't suspect them of dealing stolen goods, right? Right. They're not suspicious. But cool, and we say in general, Sha'amru Lahatnin. Anytime you buy something from one of these people, and they say, "Listen, don't show anybody." Don't show anybody, hide it. Oh, sorry, then you can't buy it. The second guy says, look, don't let anybody know you bought it from me. You're not allowed to buy from them. But you can buy eggs and chickens from anybody because people are not going to put themselves in danger of being caught for such a little bit of profit. Tanarabban, we learned that a bride saying lochem and aroim, we're not allowed to buy from shepherds, lo izim, not goats, lo gedoyim, not baby goats, lo gizin, not fleeces, lo tlushin shaltzemer, or not tufts of wool that are ripped off the sheep. Yeah, ripped off the sheep. Those things we're afraid they're stolen. Lochman's for him, but we can take already sewn garments. We can take from them because they acquired them. If nation shall end, that already belongs to the thief. Even if he stole it, he acquired it. But lochman with the chain. And we can also buy milk or cheese from the shepherds by Midbar, only in the desert. Why? Because over there, the owners don't expect it. The owners don't expect it. They're not collecting it. Yeah, the owners give it to the shepherds. Below a issue, but in the settlement, you can't buy milk and cheese because the owners expect it for themselves and not for the shepherds. But you can buy 4 or 5 sheep from them or or 4 or 5 fleeces. Why? Because that's too many to steal without the owner knowing. So you can assume that they're not stolen. But you can't buy 2 sheep or 2 fleeces because that the shepherd can steal without the guy knowing. Okay, you could say that whatever you could say. The thing got killed by another animal, etc. He says, listen, it depends. He says, baisos, sheep that are domesticated, that they come home every night to the house of the owner, lochamiam, you can buy from shepherds. Why? Because they're not going to have a chance to steal them. The balabais, the owner is on top of it. Midbarios, but ones that stay out in the wilderness at night, and lochamiam, those you can't buy from the shepherds. Okay, now we don't know what he's relating to, but klalo shel davar, in general, we conclude what? What's the general rule? Anything that the shepherd would sell and the owner would realize was missing, nochmam, you can buy from the shepherd. No, the shepherd, anything that the owner would know is missing, you can buy from the shepherd. Anything where the owner would not be aware of it being missing, and nochmam, you can't buy from the shepherd. Omar Mar, we said in the Brisa. Nochmam dalveit zone. But first you told me what? You can take 4 or 5, dalveit gizim, 4 or 5 sheep. You told me 4 or 5 fleeces. Hashta, what do you mean 4 or 5? Hashta, yesh lomar arba zavinan. If I can buy 4, if I can buy 4, which means what? That the owner's going to be aware of 4 missing, so I can buy it. Chamishim buys any question, I can buy 5. He'll certainly be aware of 5 missing. Rav Chisti said no. It really means like this: arba mitoch chamisha. Out of a whole flock of 5, you can buy 4 because the owner would certainly know. Or another way, okay? Or out of a whole group of 5 fleeces, you can buy 4. Some people learn like this. Rav Chizda, this is the answer. Arba me'eder katan, you get 4 from a small flock, okay? And mechamesh me'eder gadol, 5 from a big one. What's small? What's big? Okay, we got to talk. Ha'gufa kash. The Gemara says this is an internal contradiction. On the one hand, you said to me, Amar to dalbeit son or dalbeit and I can buy 4 or 5 sheep, or I can buy 4 or 5 fleeces. Dalabayin, so 4 or 5, yes. Aval shalosh lo, but 3 I can't. That's too small. Ema sefer. So how do I read the end? It says avalo shteitz on. You told me not 2 sheep, so but I can't buy 2. Shalosh shavina, so 3 I can. So when the beginning tells me what 3 is out, and then the end says 3 is in. Lo kasha, that's not a difficulty. Why? Okay, when we in the end when we said what the 3 is okay, it's where they're fat ones. So the guy would know they were missing. When we said 3 is no good, we're talking about skinny ones, he wouldn't have noticed it. When in the end we said, Baisus look man, Yehuda said what? Sheep that go home at night, you're allowed to buy from the shepherds. But Bari said, look man, and the ones that stay in the wilderness, you can't buy from the shepherds. We're not sure. What is he saying? What is his qualification? Yehuda made his qualification. He said, listen, it depends if they're domestic or if they're wild, wilderness ones or house ones. Okay? He says, this is talking about the beginning, Ula Chumrah. And he's coming to what? And he's coming to be more stringent. Oh, Dilma Sefer Koi, maybe he's going to the end of the Mishnah, or the end of the and what? And Ulakula, and he's coming to be lenient. What do we mean to say? In other words, take a look. Areisha Koi Lachumra, is he going on the beginning where we said what? The Amar Lachmiyam Arba V'chamishat. We said you can buy 4 or 5. So he says no. When can you buy 4 or 5? Hani Mili Bebaisius. You can buy 4 or 5 of the ones that go home. Why? Because the owner's watching them. But when it comes to the ones, if they stay out, he's not going to know they're missing. Even 4 and 5 is not enough to say they don't know, and you can't buy them. Oh, Dima Sefer Kari Lakula, maybe it's the other way. No, maybe he's really qualifying in the end. The Amar, when we said we said you can't buy 2 sheep or 2 fleeces. Hani when can't you buy 2 midbarios? Well, that's the ones where they're out in the wilderness. The owner won't notice. But if they go home at night, then even 2 the owner will notice, and you're allowed to buy them. Okay, Toshma, come on, bring you a proof which one it is. The tiny, because we learned, but we just said Lochin. So we learned it right. So we just said Lochin Baisios, ma'am. You can buy from the shepherds. You can buy the ones that come at home. You don't buy the ones that stay out in the wilderness. And in any place, you can always buy 4 or 5. That he said you can buy 4 or 5 any place. Shmaminos, it must be what? A seifa, but he was talking about the end. When he said 2, and he's saying what? That when can you
When can't you buy two? It's only when out in the wilderness with a cooler. But if in the house, it's become too lenient that you can even buy two. Yeah, two. Shmamino and Shmamino. Indeed, you can hear it. We'll call it a daf. These are big pages, Rabbi said. It must be they're running out of paper at the end of the Masechta. They make it a lot.
Tosfos doesn't have much to say.
What?
One performs an act of dictator's does,
Yeah.
and the victim would never know about it.
So the general rule is anything, if the person fooled themselves, you don't have to. But if you fooled them, you have to. So in general, the Divrei Sadas means any place where he fools them. If he should have known better, it's not your problem. If he shouldn't have known better, it is your problem. So, for example, the classic case in the Gemara, you come to the exit of the city, and a guy's coming. He says, "Oh, it was so nice of you to come to greet me." So you don't have to tell him, "Hey, I was just leaving the city." Why? Because you don't know people leaving the city every day. I think everybody's leaving the city came to greet you. So it's not your problem. You're saying, but if you make them like a classic thing here, I got 10 seats at my party, and I got 11 people. But I know this guy's going out of town. I say, "Oh, please, could you come?" Because I know he can't make it. You know,
Yeah, it's a cost because they